In 2012, a celebrity net worth website typed a single figure beside a dead African king: $400 billion. The king was Mansa Musa of Mali. Every list you have read since calls him the richest man in history. No historian gave them that number, a website did. Every legend requires an audit. 11 famous fortunes, opened one at a time, each number traced back to the person who first wrote it down. It begins not with a treasure vault and not with a battlefield, but with a receipt. The pattern is simple. The more famous the fortune, the worse the evidence behind the number. You already trust this trick. Open a finance app and watch it turn one man's shares into a single net worth number that moves before lunch. Every fortune here was measured the same careless way, with worse tools. So opening these files carries a cost. Some of your favorite facts will not survive it, and the honest answer waiting at the end is a shrug. Keep one object in mind: a single gold coin from a Cairo market. Later, that one coin decides whether the most famous economic disaster on these lists ever happened. Start at the bottom with the one man who left a receipt. Andrew Carnegie, 1901, sells Carnegie steel to J.P. Morgan and walks away with about $225 million, most of it in gold bonds he could hold. The deal built USC Steel, the first company on Earth valued above $1 billion. This is the rarest thing in the audit: a richest man claim with paperwork. And notice what the paperwork does to the legend. A documented fortune always sounds smaller than an invented one. Hold that. It runs under everything here. Next, Rome. Marcus Licinius Crassus. For Crassus, there is a real figure from Plutarch who names it out loud. 300 talents at the start, 7,100 at the end, around 180 tons of silver, and Plutarch tells you exactly where it came from: fire. Picture a street in Rome after dark. A block of flats is burning. A man arrives with a private brigade of 500 slaves he owns, trained builders, and he does not fight the fire. He waits. He offers the owner a price for the building while it burns, and a lower price for the terrified house next door. The owner watches everything he owns turn to smoke. He looks at Crassus, silence. Then he sells. Rome had no fire service, and Crassus was the closest thing it had. It worked for the buyer, never for the burning. He wrote his own test for wealth. No man is rich unless he can pay for an army. The number is real. The method was arson. Now a man whose ledgers survive. Jakob Fugger of Augsburg, banker to emperors, painted by Dürer in a fur collar and a plain gold cap. The internet lists him at $400 billion. His own family foundation, working from the inventory taken in 1527, puts his personal assets at 667,000 guilders. By weight of gold, about 60 million euros by the foundation's own gold valuation. Not $400 billion, 60 million. But the foundation hands you the one figure that survives. Fugger controlled close to 10% of the entire Holy Roman Empire's output. One man, a tenth of an economy. The share is real. The dollar sign is decoration. Which brings us to the man Guinness actually crowns. John D. Rockefeller, 1913, worth about $900 million, close to 2% of the whole American economy. That 2% is solid. Then Guinness tries to drag it into today's money and prints 3 different numbers for the same man in the same year. $631 billion, $163 billion, $28 billion, a more than 20-fold gap inside one encyclopedia entry. Pick the ruler and you pick the winner. This is the machine under every ranking. The measure you choose does not describe the richest man. It invents him. Now weigh that coin. In 1324, Mansa Musa crosses Cairo on pilgrimage, giving away so much gold that, supposedly, he flattened Egypt's economy for a decade. Here is the entire evidence. One writer, Al-Umari, working from Cairo Market Talk years later, records the price of gold slipping from 25 dirhams to under 22. That single price on that single coin is the whole foundation of a disaster retold in 100 videos. Then, a monetary historian, Warren Schultz, went back to the Mamluk records and found the drop sits inside the normal wobble of gold in Egypt. His spending nudged the market. It did not detonate it. The decade-long apocalypse is a textbook anecdote, not a documented event. The easy myth is dead. The number itself is still waiting. The next figure is a straight accounting trick. Tsar Nicholas II gets sold to you at $300 billion. That prices the crown's land, 65 million hectares, an area larger than France that the throne could not legally sell as if it were for sale tomorrow. His documented personal fortune, counted in 1896, was around £200,000, and it shrank by 1917. The income from those estates flowed to a ministry, never into his hands. The richest Tsar in the world, by the sober books, barely carried cash of his own. Here is the same trick in bulk. Every emperor on these lists gets handed his entire economy as a personal wallet. Genghis Khan, valued in the trillions, he lived in a felt tent and handed the loot to his soldiers. Personal hoard, essentially nothing. Augustus at $4.6 trillion, from a Stanford estimate that he controlled about a fifth of Rome's economy. A share of an empire, wearing a dollar sign. Basil II left the Byzantine treasury stacked with millions of gold coins. State reserve, not a private fortune. Akbar's Mughal Empire produced roughly a quarter of everything made on Earth in 1600. The empire's output, not Akbar's account. 4 crowns, 1 swap performed every time. The country counted as the king. One more before the top. Alan the Red, a Breton knight who came to England with William the Conqueror, ranked by 2 historians as the richest Briton who ever lived. Their figure, £81 billion. You can check half of it yourself. Open the Domesday Book from 1086 and count his name. Over 1,000 entries, the 3rd richest man in the kingdom, behind only the king and one other lord. That part is real. Ink on medieval parchment. The billions are not. The historians took his slice of England's income, about 7%, and scaled that share onto the modern economy. Real land invented total, and it points straight back at the name we opened with. So rank them by actual, documented wealth. When you strip away the state land and the fake math, the list inverts. The trillionaire emperors drop to 0, and the men with the receipts take the crown. There is only one fortune left to weigh, the one every list puts at number 1, and it carries the least evidence of them all. Mansa Musa, emperor of Mali 700 years ago, master of the richest goldfields in the medieval world. That much is true. The $400 billion figure is not. It was invented in 2012 by a celebrity net worth website, adjusted, they claimed, to that year's dollars, then copied by Time, by Money, by every list that followed. No historian signed it. A traffic-hungry website did, and the internet filed it as fact. Ask the scholars who actually study Mali, and the honest answer lands. The historian Hadrian Collet says the fortune cannot be converted into a modern number at all. The medieval writers were not filing a tax return. They meant more gold than we can imagine. The pilgrimage you already weighed nudged a market. It did not end an empire, and the $400 billion is that same exaggeration, aimed at his wallet instead of at Cairo. Every ruler in this audit was inflated the same way. He is only the most famous version. What actually survives Mansa Musa is a picture. The oldest known image of him sits in the French National Library, painted onto a map in 1375, about 40 years after he died. He holds up a single lump of gold on a golden throne, and the caption already calls him the richest, noblest king of all. The legend was finished before anyone tried to price it. So the audit closes the way every one of these fortunes ends, with a question the ledgers cannot answer. If the honest number is that there is no number, why do we still need one man to be the richest of all time?